Dear senior fours, I welcome you to our lesson 2, term 2, 2020. So in the previous lesson, we talked about the meaning of price mechanism. We discussed the advantages of price mechanism and then some assumptions of price mechanism. So today, we are going to see the disadvantages of price mechanism, and then we shall also look at ways of reducing the defects of price mechanism in our today's lesson. However, price mechanism, we said that it is a system where resource allocation in the economy is influenced by price as a key determinant. So the other name for price mechanism, we said it is also called an invisible hand. So under price mechanism, it is the forces of demand and supply for goods and services that influence price for goods and services, and the price is the one that influences resource allocation. We also noted that price mechanism operates under a free enterprise economy and not in the command economy. Okay, so let's begin our discussion with the disadvantages of price mechanism. First of all, we see that it promotes income inequality, and then we understand that income inequality is an economic distance between the poor and the rich within the country. So to earn income, you need resources. So if you don't have resources, you cannot earn any income. So people who do not have resources remain poor, thereby widening the income gap. So, and that one is caused as a result of income, price mechanism. Then you have that it leads to monopoly tendencies in the country. You remember that we said that firms under they aim at profit maximization, and these consumers aim at utility maximization. So most of the time in a free enterprise economy, as a characteristic, monopoly tendencies arise where now some firms wish to outcompete other firms. So when bigger firms, especially those ones that produce at low average costs, outcompete the high cost firms which do not make profits in the short run, they may force them to leave the market, and then when they leave the market, big firms can take it as an opportunity to exploit consumers by increasing prices when other companies or producers move out of the market. Then we have this system does not cater for public goods which are collectively consumed and that are expensive to produce. We know that public goods, they are the ones that are used collectively. For example, we have roads, we have bridges, street lights, among others. So public goods are not given priority when the price mechanism is allowed to freely operate. So things like security, roads, and others are not given priority. So this one is a real disadvantage, since we cannot do without public goods. To continue, we have that it leads to unemployment. So producers aim at profit maximization, as we said, and minimizing costs in the process. So they end up using or employing what we call capital intensive production technique, which focuses on the use of technology mainly, and then it reduces on the labor force. So instead of employing people, producers may aim at maximizing profits, thereby employing machines. So in that case, unemployment can set in. And then in addition, unemployment can also be due to inefficient firms being outcompeted from the production process, and workers from such firms remain unemployed. So in the previous point, we say that there is monopoly tendencies. So when monopoly tendencies set in as a result of the operation of price mechanism, then we shall have some members being replaced by machines and thereby creating unemployment. Normally we call technological unemployment. So to continue, we have that it leads to a fluctuation in incomes of sellers. So individuals selling products which are seasonal. For instance, we have here like umbrellas, raincoats. So their incomes are high during the rainy season and low during the dry season, which makes planning difficult. So price mechanism may also causes what we call price fluctuation, where at certain point some conditions may cause a product to be favored, and then that brings about an increase in price, and then at another time the conditions do not favor the demand for that product, and then that one brings the prices down. So all that affects the sellers. At one time they have higher incomes, and at another point they have low incomes. To continue, we have it promotes the production of socially harmful products. So remember that we said that resource allocation is influenced by the price. So since prices of products influence resource allocation, the producers will always allocate their resources to producing products which can enable them to earn more profits by charging higher prices. So in this instance, so we may have some products which are real socially harmful, like cigarettes, like alcohol, like cocaine. If not restricted, they can storm the market, since they will be the most profitable products. So I think that one is understandable. So because such commodities may be fetching high profits to producers, so producers may leave out other socially good products, and then they concentrate on production of socially harmful products. Okay, the system undermines the provision of basic and cheap essential goods and services which are nanny profit making. So we all know that in our daily lives as human beings, there are some essential items that we need, but which are not so profitable to producers. You can take an example of, say, water, medicine, maybe scholastic materials. So price mechanism may not allow or may reduce the provision of such basic and cheap essential goods, since it only focuses on profit maximization, not focusing on the well-being of society. We have it leads to overexploitation of natural resources. So we have that due to competition in production and lack of government control, the producers may want to produce more output, hence overexploitation of resources. So under price mechanism, since it is the price signal that influences resource allocation, we may have some specific resources being overexploited if they really fetch much profits for producers. So you can take examples of like fish. If fish is more profitable, then many people will invest in fishing, and then consequently that one can cause over exploitation of fish and even sometimes extinction. So that one is really a disadvantage. We have this point that there is need for proper planning to reflect structure changes, detect future needs, and direct economic growth through government intervention. So if we are to have the defects of price mechanism checked, then there is need for planning by government to detect the needs and direct economic growth towards specific areas, so that now we can correct the problem of price mechanism. Okay, the system does not cater for the unprivileged and vulnerable members of society, like the lame and the poor, who cannot otherwise be catered for by government. So normally for price mechanism, it does not cater for the unprivileged members of society, since all the time the producers want to make more money, and then they do it by making sure that they charge high prices and reduce the costs of production. So the divergence between social costs and private benefits, it makes the vulnerable be exploited. So producers do not focus much on social benefits, they only focus on private benefits. So that's why we have issues like environmental pollution, deterioration in the form of noise and water pollution, among others, which negatively affect our society. Then it leads to resource wastage through excessive advertisement and duplication of goods and services. Under price mechanism, since we said it that it is successful under a free enterprise economy, then one of the characteristics of the free enterprise economy is we have resource wastage, and this is caused by excessive advertisement, since and duplication of resources, since these producers, they want to attract the public to buy their commodities, so they spend too much money on advertising, especially using persuasive advertisement. And then we have so many people, when they see that a certain product or service is profitable, then we tend to have so many people duplicating it, so that they can also benefit from the high profits that it earns. Okay, so now let's see if what can be done to reduce the defects of price mechanism. So when price mechanism exists, or it's allowed to exist, we remember that like Rwanda is a mixed economy. It embraces both the characteristics of socialist economy and then the characteristics of capitalistic economy, though the capitalistic features are more prominent than the socialist features. So what can be done to reduce on the disadvantages or the defects of price mechanism? First of all, we can say that there might be formation of consumers associations, so as to educate and sensitize the consumers about the quality of commodities brought in the market. So this helps to reduce on consumers' ignorance. So some of the challenges that we may talk about is like consumers' exploitation or disadvantages of price mechanism. However, to check on consumers' exploitation, we may have consumers associations put in place to educate consumers about the quality of commodities brought to the market, so that now they don't fall victims of producers when they overcharge them. Then government may use tax as a tool and subsidies. So taxing the rich and subsidizing the poor can help to reduce income inequalities through what we call progressive taxation, where the rich are taxed more than the poor. So the standards of living of the poor can be improved. So progressive taxation is where government imposes more taxes on the rich and then less taxes on the poor. So in that case, government can redistribute income by providing support to the poor people using the taxes they collect from the rich people. Then you have use of price controls by government. So price control is where now government intervenes to fix or to determine the prices of especially basic commodities in the country. The institution in Rwanda that is responsible for that is called Rwanda Utility Regulatory Authority, or RURA. You have seen that RURA fixes prices of items like oil products like petrol, diesel, and others, transport fare. When you are going to use public transport, the amount of tax, the amount of fare that you pay is determined by Rwanda Utility Regulatory Authority, and on some other products like internet and the bandwidth products, television, all those ones are determined by RURA. So in this case, it will be helping to reduce the negative effects of price mechanism. So we shall look at price control in depth, where we shall look at the minimum and the maximum price in future, and perhaps you have a better understanding of it. Okay, so we shall also talk about use of anti-monopoly legislations. So we know that monopoly is a situation where we have a single firm producing goods and services for the entire population. So when the government puts in place policies which do not promote monopoly, is the one that we call demonopolization. So government demonopolizes the economy through promoting the activities of private individuals, allowing more firms or businesses to join the production, distribution, and the all activities involved in marketing of certain commodities or commodities freely without any regulations. Then reducing on social costs. This is done by overtaxing and issuing costly licenses in order to discourage producers from overexploiting natural resources. So we noted that some of the disadvantages of price mechanism is encouraging over exploitation of resources. So to solve that, government may reduce the effects of price mechanism by putting high license requirements for companies which want to exploit natural resources, so that now we may have few companies exploiting those natural resources, so that now their extinction or exhaustion is at least prolonged. So another thing that we shall talk about, the last one, is subsidization of weak and smaller producers by government. So we know that subsidization is assistance extended to producers or consumers by government. So when government provides subsidies, indirectly it promotes production. So if, for instance, government provides subsidies in the form of farm inputs to farmers, then farmers are able to acquire farm inputs at low cost or at zero cost. Then when they produce products, consumers of their products will be able to buy them at a low price. So government, when it provides subsidies, it then will promote production, which will eventually lead to low prices when the products are put on market.